everybody. It is IKYA Live from Summer Studio. My name is Andy, Operations Manager here at IKYA Center, and you are with IKYA Live, world news from the spiritual perspective, and the only news program in the world giving you practical spiritual advice for your everyday life. And as I said, today we're from Summer Studio, and we have a very sort of summary topic for you because the world is changing quite rapidly, and it's the physical world around us, our environment. And we encourage everybody to join tonight by following along, but also engaging, asking questions. Write in your write in your questions or comments in the comments below, and I will relay them to Ikaya. And remember to subscribe to Ikai.official, our YouTube channel, and to share this link already now with any fellow spiritual seekers who might want to join us live. Also, because that link is what they will use to watch the show afterward as well. So we're going to get started in just a moment. Tonight, the topic is climate change, and we have posed the question, why is it so difficult for us to change, to make any meaningful change? Why is it we're in such a rut? And what could we do to grow out of it? So we're going to go ahead and invite Ikaya into the discussion. And there he is. Welcome,
Hi,
Ikaya.
thank you.
So tonight, Ikai Live, we made the bold statement that we would rather die than change. Why the heck is this?
Well, as I often do, I go back into evolution and seeing how we have developed certain ways and certain characteristics. And we're not supposed to change, right? It's not part of evolution. We're supposed to be greedy. We're supposed to be violent. We're supposed to cheat, steal, lie, kill, whatever it takes. Evolution is a winning game. So, any change that we accept will have to be change that will make us feel that we're gaining, that it's better, that we are winning. Our biology is opposed to accepting any change where we feel it's getting worse, that we're losing something. And that's in in evolutionary framework, it means that that's as good as dying, right? We are losing our grip and we will fight to keep what we've got. Remember that in evolution, we think of ourselves first and then our group. We have no empathy whatsoever for people we don't know. Human empathy is a manipulation strategy to know who's on our team, who we can use, and who we can exchange with so that we can win. So, when it comes to people in general, we have no empathy. We don't care. We are only willing to change when it affects us directly or somebody we know directly that we consider to be part of our game, part of our winning team. And, if you for a moment believe that you're not like that, let me remind you that millions and millions of people are dying every day from hunger that we could fix, from wars, from illnesses that could be fixed for less than a dollar. We accept slavery. There are more slaves in the world than never. And you don't care about it because you're not actively doing something. You can say, oh, that's terrible. It shouldn't be like that. But then it stops. You have more empathy towards a kitten, right? And it shows that we are very selective when it comes to empathy. And we are supposed to. In evolution, it's not just us, it's our teams. And then seeing who can dominate, who can win, right? So we're hardwired to behave a certain way that used to be good throughout evolution, but is not exactly relevant or the best programming is to survive these new challenges because humans have never been here before, right? So all our wiring, all our programs are based in a very different reality. We're basically now the same that we were 200,000 years ago, and life then obviously was very different. So we're not equipped to deal with today's challenges, and everything that feels natural will basically lead us straight to doom. Um, so we don't want to change. Remember, like how it works is that your brain will learn until the approximate age of 25 maximum, because then your brain is an adult brain. So everything you learn, meaning you form your opinions about the world, how the world works, and you connect everything you learned into one big cohesive mass of information, and that is your personal religion, right? You create assumptions. This is how the world works. This is what reality is. This is what I am, who I am, and how I should interact for my own benefit and survival. I understand the rules of survival now based on the environment and conditions, and I understand how to win, and I will fight to do that. Once you've established that religious um, landscape in yourself, you're not supposed to change. So everything you learn from then on will be filtered through that religious cohesiveness. And if you learn something that contradicts what you already know, you'll discard it because then it's not part of truth for you. So, not changing has been the key to survival. When we learn something and we stick to it, the winners will dominate and the losers will die. We need to remember that evolution is a brutal game. Not everyone is supposed to survive. The winners are supposed to survive and then dominate. So we're supposed to be extremely stubborn once we have decided what reality is to us. It's how nature can test out which strategies will be better. And if you belong to a strategy that will not work, you will die, but the winners will survive. And this is how we adapt as a life form. We don't change by being convinced normally. Things change by the weak ones, and the people that were wrong, they die, and they die out more quickly. If you have developed a whole culture based on assumptions that don't help you survive in your surroundings, that culture will die out, and the individuals will die, and those who were right, they will then take over. Mhm.
Actually, a question has arisen to me that I don't think we've discussed before, and it's the role of climate change as the manifestation of this discussion in the collective consciousness about this pattern of greedy, take everything, and then repeat, repeat, repeat. Is there kind of a spiritual significance to the very manifestation itself of climate change as a mirroring of our inability to change?
Yes, absolutely, because the ones who are stuck will die. Just look at what we see today with our culture having to adapt to the fact that we're killing the planet, right? Those who embrace that, not that we're killing the planet, but embrace the opportunity, embrace the change, embrace this is a great opportunity for us to reinvent, do things, and make things better. They will win. The ones who say, no, we will not change because God has given me the right to just continue, well, then they will die. That culture will
Mm,
die because they will not win in the changed rules. Remember, the rule or the game of survival is not just your local community, it's global. Now it's a cultural war in the world, and evolution dictates that now we will figure out what culture will dominate globally, right? Who will we be also as a collective species? So
mm,
now there are different alternatives, different pathways, and it will work itself out because what will
mm.
work will dominate. And absolutely, when we're stuck in a low consciousness and we refuse to change, when nature dictates that we have to, those who embrace, those who see the opportunities, they will survive and they will then dictate culture. And in a higher level of consciousness, you already know that you have to change because you're better at it. A higher level of consciousness simply means that you learn faster, you
Mm,
adapt faster, you change faster, and you heal faster. So you don't let anything stop you. You've been able to kind of bypass your biology, which dictates that you should not change, and you're always right. In a higher consciousness, you understand I'm never right.
Mm.
Nature is never done. I've never gotten it completely. I just have to continue to learn and have fun with it. Right. And there are plenty of people on the planet with that mindset. More and more individuals are incarnating with that consciousness, and that will take over. So it's also why I say there's nothing to worry about
Well,
because
yeah.
the new humans will dominate the
Mm.
ones who are more aware of what's going on. They're already incarnated in higher consciousness, not as limited to resistance to change. And they will take over. It will dominate our culture, especially next century. But we're getting there as humans are changing and individuals of higher consciousness are incarnating on this planet by the truckloads every minute. Mhm.
So Martina in Germany, she actually has a question I think that is pretty aligned with this, and she makes a good point that she was traveling in Western Canada where there's, lots and lots of huge glaciers, and one of the guides was showing out, that the glaciers show that climate has changed massively throughout time, and that what's happening now is just one example of many. So her question is if we had quote unquote behaved in an exemplary manner or with a higher consciousness, would there be no climate crisis at this point? And what sort of then percentage, she asks, what percentage of the situation is due to us directly and our behavior and need to learn?
Right. The wonderful thing about nature and consciousness is that it regulates itself. Now,
Mm,
I have explained many times the purpose of this planet and the purpose of the human culture and what spiritual approach is being taught, and the type of individuals incarnating on this planet that we share a certain path when it comes to spiritual studies. And one of the most important ones in the human life form is disconnect. We like being disconnected from nature, not understanding that we're part of oneness. You would intuitively say that, yeah, that's a bad thing. Not necessarily, because when you think that I can do whatever, I'm not part of this nature, this is just garnish, right? I can do whatever, and you will experience a disconnect from the order in nature and the flow in nature. You have to trust yourself, and you start to do things from scratch, and you become more creative, which means you will also be destructive, but you will learn how to do things from scratch. And part of this cycle of human civilization, there have been several cycles of civilization. This cycle is the one with the highest level of disconnect. So
mm.
for each civilization, we've been more and more disconnected from the nature intelligence. And that has basically taught humans to do things from scratch because there are no consequences, no laws to follow, nothing. So humans are in the process of learning to do things from scratch because also from a spiritual perspective, that is very healthy to basically cut things apart, pick them apart and learn how they work. This is the enormous strength of what the collective human life form is going through, and humans therefore learn a lot. So it's a combination of first destroying and then learning how to rebuild, right? When we're in disconnect and when we're blind, we will be quite destructive, but we will notice that things are not working and then we'll do something about it. Human innovation has always been about figuring out that something is not working. I can do this better. I can do things differently and I can do whatever. It's part of the human mindset, and in many ways, it's wonderful. So, through the disconnect, humans are learning how to build consciousness, how to build connection. And now, because we're also have to reach a more global consciousness, all solutions to human collective survival will have to be solved globally. And yes, that includes bringing the whole planet to almost brink of extinction, and then humans working together to figure out how to balance it, how to heal, and how to also repopulate this planet with species that have gone extinct. So this will happen, but it will take some time.
So along those lines, this picture you paint of almost like a playground for
Mhm.
our species. A key here in Norway wonders, does this mean that nature allows the development of one species even if it destroys much or all of life around it or ourselves? And if so, when or does nature step in to make the species go beyond its own self-destruction?
These are big questions. Understand that there is no limit in life. If you understand that what we see around us is basically a rendering of our own consciousness, matter is a rendering of consciousness. It has no value in and of itself. So, yes, there is no limit to what is allowed in a way, because remember that everybody incarnating on this planet, including the other life forms, they choose it. It's part of their journey. If they need to go through, for instance, extinction, if that's a movement, a certain cycle, a certain movement that certain souls or atoms need to move through, then they will incarnate on a planet in the life forms, in whatever, that is the exact rendering of that movement, because there is something they need to go through in their own karmic journey. So we all gravitate towards whatever it is we need to grow and heal spiritually. So the goal is not for the renderings in matter to be perfect and everyone being happy. We're here to balance out our resistance and to build consciousness and to build the understanding of how to co-create with life. So when a life form like humans get to a certain point, they need to go through these stages as well, where they can see, oh, right, what we do actually has consequence. And we need then to learn how to bring things into balance, because otherwise we cannot survive. It's the same as not on an individual level, right? When you want to survive as a person, you will figure out you need to gather food, you need shelter, you need to take care of your family, all of these things. If you don't, you will die. So we're just learning the same survival principles, but now including the planet and understanding that, yeah, if we kill all life forms on this planet, we will die with it. And we're getting to that point very slowly, because we don't want to change. Humans created religions that taught them that, oh, they can just do whatever they want to because God gave them this so they could be superior, and all that, to humans being made in God's image, while it's the other way around. So we will get there. And also remember that whatever happens on this planet, it's being guided both by beings from other planets. They are here, they have been here for a long time. There's always been part of human culture. They started the human culture. And I think we're getting to the point in human history where this is gradually getting acceptance, and the evidence will be slowly presented. There is now in our culture a soft launch of evidence. As you can see also in media, slowly more information that decades ago authorities would have shut down, it's now starting to leak and is not being
Mhm.
blocked. We're slowly getting there. So there's that. In addition, spiritual beings are also part of what is going on. There are more spiritual beings involved with this planet than there are humans. Everything is a huge co-creation, and this planet is no exception. So multiple levels of life are working together, just like you can imagine humans being on top of the food chain here. Doesn't mean that the food chain stops. Understand that a life form on this planet may operate locally, and they're connected to a kind of bigger part of nature and maybe a whole country, and it stretches. It doesn't stop with this planet. This planet is also part of a bigger ecosystem, but because we humans can't see beyond their own reality, just like an ant cannot understand humans and really understand anything beyond their own existence. Humans can't, for the time being, understand how we are part of a greater ecosystem. And this is also why many of these cultures come here, why there are different levels of consciousness and beings involved, because this planet is just a tiny part of the ecosystem, and it goes on and on and on and on. And we're all here to do whatever we need to do to grow and heal. So, yes, beings in a more advanced consciousness will be part of this. And a life form has the right to destroy itself if that's the learning it needs to go through. But in this case, also, we're trying to kind of assist a little bit and kind of baby proof what is happening on this planet because, as you just like with infants, if you let them to their own devices, they would be dead by the end of the day, right? They will do stuff because they don't know how to move
Mm.
in traffic. They don't know how to, play with knives or whatever. They would kill themselves very quickly, and kids have no idea that the parents run around trying to baby proof everything so that the baby can think that he's just exploring. There are no consequences to anything. So humans think the same way, but there are always adults present. But sometimes, yes, even an intelligent life form will be allowed to self-destruct because that is also part of the learning process. And when we see that, for instance, a life form will aim for that choice, souls needing that experience will then start to take over and incarnate. So they will be part of that journey, right? And they will then be part of the destruction of that culture or life form. And souls needing other forms of experience, they will incarnate somewhere else, right? So everything is always in order.
So the irony, Akaya, is that the sort of gradual revealing of information and confirmation, and slowly the collective consciousness accepting, seems to apply both to alien species and spiritual beings, as well as climate science and climate change.
Hmm. Yes,
So,
exactly. But it's relating to the fact that we're part of something greater.
yeah.
It's difficult for humans to relate to that without creating fantasy because the bigger picture humans have related to have always been religious, right?
Mm,
As is, our brain is religion, right? We've not made up religions. They are basically just the extension of how our brain works
mm,
to start with. As I say, like when your brain is fully grown, that in itself is a religion because it has collected information and assembled it in such a way that you think you understand your world and you need to believe in it, right? So your belief is the conclusion and how you have assembled the information. And
mm,
now it's part of how your brain operates. You have a lot of brain cells and connections that protects how you see the world. And this is when you um, comply with the rules that your brain has made up. That is your rules of survival. You will get chemical rewards, right? This is why I often say that what people relate to as the Holy Spirit in different religions, for the most part, is simply your own brain chemistry. This is why God always agrees with you, right? Because it's the God images are the extension of this. Because we do feel that yes, I'm doing the right thing. This is truth, right? When we comply with the overall kind of stitching of the information, everything that you've learned for your own survival. And if you then, for instance, if you're in a religion and you feel that God does not agree with you, the religion in your brain is stronger, and then you will find a new God.
mm.
It always happens because that is your religion. When you choose a religion, it's because that mirrors. And this is why you recognize, oh, this is truth, because it mirrors the overall storyline that your brain has made up about kind of your sense of survival. And we're not supposed to change that. As I said, this is how evolution works. Another fun thing about this, just as we understand why we're not willing to change, is that when that is established, right, and you have the new generation, they incarnate into a different world because things change. But due to our religion, we don't see that because our brain will start filtering out anything that is not consistent with our religious way of thinking. New brains don't do that. So they will include more and they will then see things differently. Now, how evolution works is that when that person grows up, the difference in thinking and values and priority. That will be the difference between that generation or that person and their parents. To retrain the brain, that needs a higher volume. So you need to be more radicalized as a young person, meaning everything that makes you different from the previous generation will have an increased volume. Because when you live with your parents in the established society, that is something that will instruct your brain 24/7, right? So that will be part of the brain cells your brain will produce. And to change that and to add something on, then it needs higher volume. So that will be standing out and it will become aggressive and inflamed, and you will proclaim and it will protest and you will find your own way, all of that until your brain has been able to include that and then understand this information is now dominant. So I will take this new stuff with it, whatever it is, and I will now use that and then throw away what in the old template that is not consistent with this. And once your brain has done that, by the age of 25, you'll gradually start to behave normally. And it will just be a part of how your brain, your religious thinking works. It will now analyze in a normal way, but you will have a different setting, right? A different mix of information and priority in your brain than the previous generation. And gradually, you'll connect to the established values. This is why people become more conservative as they get older, because now they become the default setting. They become the consistency of human evolution. And then the young people will have to test themselves against that, right? This is how we change. So it's okay that adults don't want to change. It belongs to their generation and their way of all of that. Leave it to the young people, right? Because they need that sounding board. It's not that all new ideas are better. If they're not, the established values will win. And often we see that people can be very radical when they're young. And as they get older, they start to gravitate towards the classic values of their parents and grandparents
Mm.
and people 2,000 years ago because it's the same. And then it's because of the discussion in their mind and then gradually saying, oh, this works better. What works better will always dominate over time, even in our brains, right? But it will be the same religion, but you will refine it and make it work in reality.
Thank you for helping me understand my own teenage years, maxing out my environmental fanaticism at
Mhm.
18. And now, as my mom and grandma used to always say, the apple never falls far from the tree, sweetheart. And here I am, not too far from the tree, but a little more environmentally aware than they were.
Exactly. But also think that the apples fall a little further from the tree for each time because the branches
Yeah,
grow,
yeah,
right? And that is, it should not fall as close to the trunk because it means no growth. So you should see that the tree keeps growing.
right.
So it will be a little further because that is also
So
how we see that evolution and growth.
So Martina in Germany, she had another interesting question, a little bit back to your point about administration of the planet, because she has heard, and maybe people have begun to notice over the years that big events like the Olympic Games or other big events seem to remarkably have sort of good weather more and more as the years go on, and I think it's becoming more and more sort of open that the weather is able to be manipulated. And for example, it was blowing and overcast just an hour and a half ago, and suddenly it's really nice and calm, and the sun's out here. So her question is, to what extent are we able to manipulate the weather? And is that a big part of how we are going to move through this climate crisis?
Right. When it comes to weather manipulation, it's both like when it comes to local manipulation, it's quite simple. And many Arab countries are doing this already to create rain, for instance. There is official technology already. But just like everything in nature, it also responds to consciousness and thought. And it's been tradition. Like now, we find ourselves in Norway. And it's been a tradition in this country forever that once because you have the kind of collective holiday, right? The holiday where most people have their holiday in July. And it's been a tradition that on that day it starts raining, right? Because the best weather will be when people are still working. It doesn't matter when it is. When everyone's going on holiday, then it will be not as good because it's part of the collective consciousness that people should be punished, right? So it's also that the mind can influence weather, and it's even not that difficult. But yes, of course, weather is being manipulated more than one would think, but it's not officially it. And the technologies that humans have are really still quite crude. But
Mhm.
yes, we will be moving in that direction because innovation is the only way we will save the planet because humans are not willing to accept change that feels like we're moving backwards. This is what, for instance, Tesla understood. This is part of Elon Musk's genius, is that he understands that if we want people to change, the solutions you offer have to be better than what they already have, not a
Mhm.
punishment. So Tesla, what they wanted to do was to build a better car, and it just happens to be electric, right? That is how you get there, not by punishment. And you know, punishment is really fun to me because it's this is a big complex. So I'll just start to unpack it because this could also be something we talk about for a whole episode. But punishment has been a big part of human culture and human evolution. And the reason is that all animals punish their kids, right? When you think of being punished because you've done something wrong and you don't necessarily understand why, and you have parents being authority, you can't question. That is exactly the same thing as God's been doing. Like it's an extension of the relationship you have with your parents, but now it's about everything. As a child, your parents are gods. They are your world and they control everything, and everything they say and do is right. So when they punish, it's a way to say that you've done something wrong and you might not understand because you were just doing whatever. But it's a way to show you that no, these are the rules of survival. By punishing you, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you understand how things work. You can't do this because that could lead to your death. You have to do it this way. So, throughout evolution, humans have learned that when we're being punished, it's actually the guidance of a parent trying to show us that I want you to succeed. So humans invented a lot of gods that have been punishing humans, right? And it's that recognition that oh, we need to be punished. Now, the psychology also when we punish a child, and kids recognize this. Remember that humans have not really changed for several hundred thousand years. So it's still happening today, and it still happened 200,000 years ago. When a child's being punished, then it's done. It diffuses the energy, and the kid can say, "Oh, like mommy is happy again." It kind of nullifies whatever did wrong, right? So being punished becomes a solution to when we don't understand something, I did something wrong. When you're being punished, it will release that energy and you, oh, mommy is happy again. So instead of changing, right, getting a different result, as long as you're being punished, everything is good. When it comes to the environment, humans apply the same way of thinking. And this is why we get all these silly policies because we feel that, yeah, we're doing something wrong. We don't understand what to do really and why is this wrong and all that. But if you're being punished, you've done what you're supposed to, right? It gives you a feeling that, oh, yes, because I'm punished, now I can just continue. I'm a good person now because I'm being punished. So most of the policies, when it comes to the environment, is about punishment. It's really about the feeling that now I have done something for the environment. So the policies are about inconvenience. making things more difficult, making things impractical, and it does not necessarily have any productive effect on the climate change because it's so minimal, right? Paper straws, even electric cars, they're just this much better than combustion engine cars because of the whole footprint. And and it's about taxes. It's about no, you can't do that. We should all be punished. So look at the strategies. It's mostly about punishment and often on things that have absolutely no effect whatsoever. But it can give us the feeling this is so inconvenient that now I've done my thing. You can't buy plastic bags anymore. Right? Use a net because it's inconvenient, right? And often, if you then buy a shopping net or a shopping bag made of cotton, right, that might have a footprint close to between 50 and 100 plastic bags. So it's like, yeah, it's just silly, but that is our psychology. And often the things that would actually work, and I've been looking at this for years, and it's so funny. Also, when I teach scientists in this field, and it's also mind-boggling to them because they can point to one one shop actions that could fix things and would have the same effect as a billion people changing something very inconveniently. But that policy is never done because it's not that sense of, oh, I'm being punished and now I'm a good person. So we want to be inconvenienced. We want that irritation, although we don't want it, but it's good for us, right? And being punished. And now, for instance, in this country, they're talking about not allowing people to eat more than 200 grams of meat every week, like stuff like that. It's all about punishment and increasing taxes, increase like all of that. It doesn't change anything, right? But we are drawn to punishment instead. And it's the same thing when it comes to self negativity. I've talked extensively about this. One of the reasons why we punish ourselves is because we get the same chemicals as if we've done something that is a solution. So we're just tricking ourselves, but we're applying the strategy and allowing politicians to do it. And there's a second part of the punish thing because since God's punished, parents punished, leaders have to punish. We want
Mm,
them to punish us because that means that they're both our parents and acting on behalf of God. So you'll see all rulers in all societies, a big part of their job have always been to punish people. And people support that. Although they suffer, they support it because since all gods are basically punishing gods, you will show yourself as a leader, showing yourself as someone who's behaving and acting on behalf of God, then you punish.
mm,
So that is part of our psychology that's been following us throughout evolution. So it also means I just have to finish the argument here. When you have someone believing that they are right, for instance, environmentalists being very aggressive and inflamed and all of that, they just want to punish everyone. You can see
mm,
that, everyone should be punished. It's because in our genetic makeup, it says that if you're in the right, you should dominate. And how you show domination is by punishing people. So they're triggered genetically into wanting to punish everyone because it feels so good. And then you are an instrument of your God based on your brain's religion. And you're supposed to be this, you know, being of vengeance, making everything right. Because in the game of evolution, it's never about truth, it's about owning and dictating what reality and truth is. And that can be whatever. So when you think and believe that I understand and you don't, it's a competition. You should try to dominate. You should try to fight. You should go to war because if you are right, you will win. But a big part of it is then punishing those who will not submit. So this is all part of our evolutionary kind of brain and psychology, right? And also why we do so many silly things Because again, when it comes to environment, we could easily have done a lot that would have worked and changed everything with hardly any inconvenience. I've never seen anyone choose that.
Well, what I was gonna comment that I've heard often that as smog or air pollution in Los Angeles has declined due to years of comprehensive technical policy making and really careful science and things, the environmental smugness has been increasing as people get this self-satisfaction from using paper straws or driving
Oh,
their electric cars and then
exactly.
lording it over everyone else who doesn't necessarily agree with that.
Mhm. Exactly. It's that. It's the punishment. I'm right, you're wrong. And you see
Yeah.
the same thing, part of religion, for instance. I said, like, many religious people, when they feel that they have to punish themselves to follow the rules of their religion to be pure enough to be allowed into heaven or whatever. And they see people living their lives being quite happy, not following those rules or regulations at all. They get so angry because why should they be allowed to live in that kind of happy space when I have to suffer to be loved by God? So then you feel that you need to punish people. You have to make them follow your rules because you are following them. So it's unfair that they should even exist. So it also justifies killing people. And you see that with religious extremists. It comes from this. They feel that they're blocking themselves from living the life they want to. And they're looking at people living the life they wish they had. And they feel because I'm on top of the food chain, I am a vehicle of God since I'm following the rules, and that gives me the right to kill them.
Yeah.
Right? We are that extreme in our minds
Mhm.
because evolution is a tough, brutal game. And this is what we over time need to not only recognize, but we need to move past it.
So Caroline in Germany, she has sort of a perspective that I think a lot of people will relate to, and then she has a question. She feels completely overwhelmed with the issue of climate change because there's so many aspects to it, so many areas where we're not acting sustainably, but also so many then contradictory perspectives, information, research, all of that. And you've talked about lots of the reason the things that aren't working and why we continue to perpetuate all of this. So then she asks with a big, so what could be productive? What are actual practical things we as individuals could do that would have a real effect?
Be happy, live your life. Fear has never been a factor in lifting consciousness. Where we are, part of where we are as a civilization, where humans could basically kill themselves in many different ways at the same time, right? We could go extinct like that in so many ways. The way to not do that is to lift consciousness and understand more of oneness, more of how we are connected to life around us.
Mm,
And it's not through self punishment. That will keep your consciousness low, not through fear. That will block you. It's by loving, it's by being happy, and also understanding that we will figure it out. Humans will still have to get closer to the edge because humans still have a very strong sense of survival. But because we're not willing to change, it's the cost benefit analysis, right? I always say that when you sit on the couch and it's on fire, you will still calculate for how much longer you can sit there because it feels so good. As it gets closer, we get to a point where the hairs on your body is starting to, fry. You will move, but not before. So we'll have to get closer. And the only way anyone is willing to change is when they feel the consequence personally. And the way out of this is not punishment, it's innovation. It's always been the way. Now, remember that there are millions of people incarnating on this planet right now. They're here to innovate, they're here to lift. And remember also, as humans, the human life form is the same, but souls incarnating are more advanced. This is not a belief system, it's happening. It's been planned for a long time. Um, you will see that human innovation will start to explode. It's changing already, but it will continue to move in that direction. And I talk to so many young entrepreneurs around the world, and they're fully aware that they're incarnated to introduce new technology and to lift the world. It's not against something, oh, I'm here to help. They actually are channeling in new information, new technology, new innovation, and they're aware of it. This is happening. And also the influx of alien technology is also, this is happening behind the scene, but it's real.
mm,
And this will also assist over time. It's always about innovation. So it doesn't mean that you can just like, oh, do whatever. You should be happy. Understand that humans, as a life form, will have to go through this kind of movements to get to the point of understanding. Because when humans understand that, all right, we're part of nature. Oh, I guess we killed it all. Humans will then change their strategies. And humans are mostly in the low consciousness yet. The most important anyone could possibly do is to lift the consciousness. And that is setting yourself free from the karmic journey and seeing that this is obviously necessary. You have to love it. You have to give space for it, but also be in a state of overview, connectedness, oneness, and try really to think about what is lacking in the collective consciousness, because that's what you can think. It's the disconnectedness, it's the self-centeredness, it's the nothing has any consequences. Then try to add that energy by living it and being an example. So it's you can live sustainably, but living sustainably is many different things. Love is sustainable, respect is sustainable, contributing to the world around you is sustainable, teaching other people how to get closer to their own heart, right? Because when we care, when we get into a state of love, we begin to care, we begin to listen, we begin to sense. I talk a lot about how to communicate with nature, animals, insects, birds, and those who know me, they know I do this all the time.
mm,
It's how I see kind of my family on this planet. It's not limited to humans. And in higher consciousness, you relate to all life around you as equal because it's the same ecosystem. It's just different levels, and we are all on the same journey, and we all need each other. And that can only happen when you lift your consciousness. Being afraid will close you and make
mm,
you willing to submit and to be controlled and manipulated. And remember that more than 70% of all humans are today living in dictatorships, and it is increasing. When people are afraid, they choose dictatorships, they choose to be controlled, they choose to be dominated, and they choose to be punished. Because when you're punished, it gives you a sense of safety that someone knows what they're doing and I'm doing something wrong. This is part of the attraction with dictatorships. It's all a punishment. And this is why it's very difficult when you look at it from a democratic perspective. Is like, why do people go along with it? Why do they accept this complete oppression and control and accept that people are killed because they want it? It's still a rendering of their own consciousness and their own fear. So by not being part of it and to seeing that, yeah, this is what this life form needs to go through, and have the love and compassion, patience with this journey has to go where it has to go because it's about the spiritual education of everyone taking part in this journey. And you're not in control, life is, right? And learning to lift your consciousness until you can see it. That's what we need to do. To act from fear will never heal the planet. You will
mm,
be part of the problem because, in essence, there is no problem on this planet. There is education taking place. And when all life forms, including humans, are faced with aspects of existence that they're not aware of, it will be messy. But remember that matter is simply a rendering of consciousness. So if this planet ceased to exist, it's just a lab experiment anyway. It's not important in and of itself. The education of consciousness, that is what's really going on. And this is also, again, what all beings present on this planet, what they care about. It's the education. And this is why aliens also are not interfering directly, because they know that humans are too primitive. You can place a human in a more advanced environment, give them technology, but it wouldn't end well
Mm.
because humans would immediately use it to destroy themselves, right? The moment humans have access to new technology, it first goes to the military, always, right? Because destruction and war is what comes to mind first, is not how to heal the planet and heal each other. A lot of the healing technology comes basically as a side effect of military technology. It's never the goal.
Or the opposite, that so much new technologies come from the military as we've been trying to advance and
Yes,
perfect warfare.
yes, absolutely. And so there's no way around it. And as a part of the human life form, what the human life form is studying is the different aspects of disconnect, and also learning how that can spark creativity and
Mm,
learning to do things from scratch. Humans will have to learn, just like we can learn how to bake a cake from scratch. Humans will have to learn how to make a planet from scratch.
mm,
Learning how to heal this planet, how to balance the ecosystem, introduce species that they have made go extinct.
mm.
Humans will learn this. It's part of the collective study. So, and we only care when we lose, right? So when we lose something and it affects us, we will do something about it. It's the purpose of the human life form, and we see it again and again and again. So humans will figure it out. It has to get a lot worse first. But from my perspective as a teacher, I think it's wonderful. It's like when you want to learn how to ride a bike, you have to fall off the bike. You need to, get small injuries and scratches and whatever. It's part of it. It's also how you get the incentive to find your balance because you don't want to fall off.
Mm.
It's absolutely necessary and it's natural. It's how we find balance because we assume that, oh, I can write and you can't. And by interacting with the result and the consequences of you not knowing how to do things, you figure it out.
Mm.
Humans will figure it out because right now we're falling off the bike. And it's completely okay. It's part of the learning process. The difference is now we have to solve it together. Like it's all human beings on the same bike, and we will figure it out. So do not worry. We humans will get to the brink of extinction in so many different ways. But at the same time, innovation will explode. There's never been so much innovation, love, creativity, happiness, opportunity on this planet as is right now. And we need to be part of that because that is positive change, right? We have to change the old ways because, yes, human civilization today is not sustainable, it's destructive, right? We make things and we destroy nature at the same time. It's completely unnecessary. There are ways to create real abundance for everyone on this planet and at the same time make the whole planet abundant. And they're incarnating so many souls on this planet right now with that in mind. So the rescue team is slowly incarnating, and the ones belonging to the destruction of the planet will slowly stop incarnating here. So when you have a mindset that is more connected, right? Less disconnected, more connected, and you can sense life around you, and you care about other life forms, you care about nature because you can feel it, you can sense it, and you see yourself as a part of it, you will find different solutions than when you are in complete disconnect. right? So there's no reason to be afraid. Although I understand that people are afraid, humans will figure it out.
So, Ikaya, please stop me if you think this isn't helpful for this conversation. But
Mhm,
as a as I've been sitting here listening to you, I've kind of realized or had a realization that I've been basically studying this episode for most of this lifetime.
mhm,
Because when I was younger, I was so fortunate as to grow up with really quite close connection with nature and kind of fell in love with it. And as my young mind started creating that religion you talk about, I became extremely defensive in a way of the environment and took it as this charge that I knew what was right, and very self-certain and quite aggressive, and really wanted to punish everybody, of course, including myself, for everything. And as I've grown up and gone in many different directions and studied a lot and stuff, I've come, and especially in working with you, as you know, I've been really starting to look at how to do the to yeah to kind of learn and implement that arc of awareness that you've been talking about tonight, to begin to observe and include more. Like, for example, we talk about our home being a home not just for us and dogs, but also spiders and other beings. And then it's kind of observing and including that, and then moving into that space of love and appreciation, which is kind of that active gratitude. But then even going beyond that to enjoyment, which is for me in some ways, because of that religious sort of self-punishment thing, enjoyment's almost been the most difficult, because that seems like an active, like living the appreciation by embracing these things that I am loving and appreciating, and really squeezing life, as you say, like choosing to be happy, choosing to um, yeah, to take this beautiful world and embrace it in everything that it is. So I just wanted to share that, especially directly to Caroline in Germany, that this is a study you can do for probably lots of lifetimes. Yeah.
yeah, I think, this is a type of study that will kind of follow all of you in many different ways, in many different cycles, because ultimately it's about learning connectedness,
Mm,
right? And when you incarnate in a life form that specializes in disconnectedness, it's because that represents misunderstandings or lack of appreciation, lack of love, lack of being part of something greater. And remember that how humans feel part of something greater is by being part of religion, which is not being part of something greater, it's by being part of a an artificial belief system in a tribe and punishing everybody else. It's not oneness. And it's then, yes, opening our hearts, studying oneness, starting to appreciate ourselves and others and all levels of life, and being in that state and behaving accordingly, behaving in a healing way is not connected to I've done something wrong, now I should heal. It's being
mm.
in a state where I understand that everything is okay. Everything is already perfect. Life is already an organism. We are all part of this organism, no matter if we understand it or not. So life is already working.
Can
There's
I
not a
inject?
single,
uh,
yeah, yeah,
Can I inject a keys question, because I think it's right here. Why is it so hard for us to even imagine something between ourselves and oneness and being part of oneness? Why is that so difficult?
because as I explained, the human life form specializes in disconnectedness.
Mm,
It's difficult for someone in a human form and with a human brain to grasp this concept.
mm,
Most intelligent life form, they experience not only themselves, but they experience a we-ness of everything around them. Most life forms on this planet, although they also will study a certain form of disconnectedness because this is part of what this planet is for. Many life forms, they experience themselves as being part of almost like a biomass, of consciousness where there is information exchange between many different levels of life. And it's just being part of this enormous being where you exchange, where you kind of have your place and where you do your part, but you're also actively sensing nature itself. So humans are specialized in the opportunities and possibilities that come with disconnectedness. Because that makes you it makes you explore, makes you pull things apart to see how they work. As I explained, there is a level on this planet which vibrates differently, and it's out of reach because it's basically like a different TV channel of manifestation. On that level, there's a lot more harmony and balance in nature, but because of that, there's very little in innovation.
Mm,
So, what comes with this wonderful disconnect of human is that there's a lot of innovation and creativity coming from the human mind instead of always just seeking balance in nature. So, the way for humans to get to the point of balance is by first pulling everything apart, rebuilding it, because humans are supposed to learn how to build the planet.
mm,
That is also part of the future of this life form to build planets from scratch. All intelligent life forms know how to do this. This planet was also seeded by beings from other planets. It's what you do. As just like when you have a garden, you like to plant, you like to be part of it by also using your creativity and creating something beautiful. Believe it or not, humans are regarded as something beautiful by other cultures, and they've been part in developing this life form. Within the next century, this will become public knowledge. Like more and more people understand this, but it will become part of how we see human history. So it's learning to do that because for humans also to go to other planets and expand, which is a natural part of an intelligent life form, we need to kind of learn this. We can't just go and do whatever because then everything will be ruined. We have to understand how to build an ecosystem, how to create harmony and balance, how to be in harmony and balance, and how to heal and how to be custodians or facilitators of life. This is where humans are heading, but humans will have a very detailed expertise, right? So it's just like most people who study psychology or psychiatry, they have a history of emotional or mental illness. That's what make them interested in like, how can I make this work? What's the mechanics? How can I heal? How can I understand? And how can I use this to help others? Right. So by humans going through this phase, humans will learn in detail how to create balance, how to create harmony, how to rebuild and repopulate the planet with beings that have gone extinct and how to create that harmony between different life forms. It's just a part of a study, right? So this planet now is a huge study group, uh, and everyone taking part in it, learning to move in that direction, right? So instead of just using our creativity for our own survival, we are now learning to understand the survival of a planet, survival of other life forms, and how to facilitate that. First, humans had to learn how to survive themselves. And then to get to a point spiritually where you need to take the next step. And then you realize, oh, my survival actually kills everybody else. Okay, I have to expand. But then you've learned the basics of your own survival so that then you can use that to study other life forms and create balance. So this is just a very long study program. And when it comes to this part of it, humans have just started, but we're all here to help. So humans will not go extinct. That's at some point, but humans will populate other planets first. It will be a long cycle. Um, so it's all going really well. So I think one thing that is really important here also is I often talk about this. Our biology is not enough when it comes to going to higher consciousness anymore. We need to learn to separate ourselves from the limitations in our biology. And these patterns, when it comes to resistance to change, is one of those things that we can actively study and move away from. Because as a human life form, you're not supposed to change. You're supposed to be stubborn. You're supposed to insist that your version of reality is the ultimate truth. Then why should you change? As you grow spiritually, you will have the opposite attitude. So, when it comes to how to move past this behavior, it's learning, as I often say to people, assume always that you are wrong. Always, because you are. You don't have the full picture, you don't have the full overview, and embrace that. It means that there is more to learn, more to explore, right? So, learning to meet any situation with, all right, there is more here. And also learning that there are many perspectives, right? When you look at something, you look at it from your own bias. Other people can observe the same thing and come to a different conclusion. It doesn't mean that they're wrong. Learning to be in many different positions and use many different approaches at the same time, that is also something that you'll learn spiritually because that creates enough doubt in your brain saying, you're right, okay, according to my position, this is what I see. But if I see it from that perspective, I see something completely different. And you learn to not be threatened by that, but understand, oh, well, then there must be more positions. How exciting. So you learn also to grow into the love of learning. You will not be too focused on what you have done and what you have learned. You're more interested in what you haven't done and what you haven't learned yet. And that becomes exciting. This is also how you retrain your brain into continuing the process that you go through when you're young. You should be this, sponge absorbing new experience and new information and trying to see if you can go past your own personal religion, right? But it's basically about establishing different attitude, a different mindset, and loving the fact that we're always wrong, loving the fact that we're never quite got it, right? There is nothing to defend because when we defend, we stop exploring, right? And we need to explore because then we adapt faster. So this is the tricky part because it means again discarding your own very personal religion. But once we become aware that our brain is a religion, we can challenge that and just explore when people say something that you disagree with. Try to like, where's this coming from? How did they arrive at this conclusion? Instead of saying that they're wrong, they are right based on their analysis, their experience, their journey. Try to see that because then it's just interesting. It's like, okay, it's a different approach. They weigh the information differently, they filter differently, they come to very different conclusions. How fascinating, right? So be less interested in defending your position than exploring the position of others. It's stuff like that. It's not even difficult.
All
Do you have
right.
any
Well,
more questions? Mhm,
no more questions. I was
mhm.
just summarizing in writing that it seems like tonight it's we started with climate change, but we're ending with, question our personal religions and embrace love, gratitude, appreciation, and enjoyment, engagement, living our lives and being happy. Um,
Yes. And just this is what all of this is for. The horizontal realities, which is, the realities we incarnate into, they only serve the purpose of helping us unfold our full potentials. That's why we are here. It's why everybody is here to unfold, to become who we truly are within, to assist us in transformation. And whatever is outside of you will only mirror whatever you need to grow and to heal. So don't be too attached to the world around you. It is not important in and of itself. How it stimulates your transformation is. And you may aim directly for what you are here to do. And love is a simple focus point because,
Mm,
however, in whatever way you associate with higher consciousness, love is always a part of it, right? Understanding oneness, trying to practice it, understanding that there is connection between everything, that we are one organism and that it's working, that there are multiple levels of consciousness working together, and that we're part of even greater ecosystems and they're part of us, right? And aiming for that and being someone that embraces everything, every expression, and to allow for everyone to go through the learning that they need to go through, even though it's painful, even though it's destructive. It is not with a purpose of being destructive. It's what is needed to open up a process of healing, to open up higher consciousness. So, yes, we can use the whole environmental issue on this planet to remind ourselves of what is actually going on and how far we often need to go also in our own lives to trigger a process of healing. Because you will see by the end of the century, if you're still here at that point, or if you're reincarnated, that humans will start turning more towards healing. Not that everyone will be happy, but you will see a natural evolutionary process. It is happening. So fill your life with love and appreciation and gratitude and connectedness and oneness, and stop judging. Understand that everything happening is absolutely necessary. Otherwise, something else would be happening instead. Everything is under administration. I'm not the only one here. I'm one of the few individuals who are visible. There are a lot of beings here assisting, and we all love you. That's why we're here. We all love this process and this planet, but we also have to allow you to go through what is necessary for your growth. And we child-proof this as much as possible without trying to block your right to learn and to explore and to study. And the goal is, just like any parent, to bring you to adulthood. Although kids have no idea how that happens, it happens. We know how it happens because we once were where you are. So we know how to get there. And we are taking care of this. We are guiding. We are guiding innovation. We're guiding collective consciousness, individual consciousness, and gradually, it will move in a direction that will also help and heal the planet.
Thank you so much, Ikaya. Such a fascinating journey tonight. And thank you, everybody, for joining us online. Again, this has been Ikaya Live, world news from the spiritual perspective, and really, truly the only news program in the world focused on giving you practical spiritual advice for your everyday life by lifting the discussion of the topics of the day so that we can see them from a higher perspective and then also shift how we live, how we act, how we think and feel. And this all really happens and lifts the world by us sharing it. So, a warm invitation again to share this link from tonight's Ikaya Live, but also we've set up next week's Ikaya Live already. It's in the Ikaya Live playlist at ikaya.official, our YouTube channel. So you can already go there and turn on a notification to remind you to join us live next week at 7 o'clock. Next week, we'll also be physically back at IKYA Center. So, for those in the Oslo, Norway area, please come and join us because the conversation gets even better when we have people in the live audience and online, and we're throwing questions and perspectives around. And then, just a heads up that next week you definitely want to join because we're going to be taking a break for the summer holidays after next Monday, and won't be back until the 14th of August. So get your fill of IKYA Live by joining us live next Monday, the 26th of June at 7 o'clock p.m. Oslo time. So make sure to follow us on social media, ikaya.official, and again, share Ikaya Live with anyone and everyone, spiritual seekers who are looking, as you heard tonight, who are looking to both talk about and think about the world around us in a very different way. You know, real down to earth spirituality that is also like the highest level in the world. So all right, from all of us at Ikai Summer Studio, thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next Monday.